get started. So I don't know what the plan is really. Okay. You're getting ready to walk, so soon as
Graduates, parents, family, friends, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. I always love this time of year. In South Bend, this is very much our spring. And I think this time of year reminds me of spring for multiple reasons. You know, we transition from gray to beautiful flowers everywhere. 2 weeks ago, we had a bunch of disheveled seniors trying to get through, and we have beautiful flowers lining the front of the room today. Every year, you know, when graduation comes around, it makes me think of when I graduated, you know, which now is quite literally half my lifetime ago. My psychology professor friend told me that statistically speaking, this is the peak year for my midlife crisis, so endure me as I'm going through this. I graduated in 2002. from University College Dublin back home in Ireland. To this day, I'm convinced that's why I accepted a job here. Every time I hear "Go Irish," I say thank you. It's absolutely wonderful. And that joke, I've told it 100 times and it always gets a laugh. So thank you, everybody. Anyway, graduates, it is wonderful to see you all here today. You know, every year I think about some things. I'm like, what does this class remind me of? And a few things come to mind. You know, I'm thinking of Gustavo and Joan. We're sitting at a truck stop in Ohio, and Joan challenges Gustavo to just randomly roll down a hill as if she was, you know, as if he was 10 years old. And they both start doing it, and it was very, very entertaining. And we have it on video for those of you who want to see. I think of Finn playing concrete cornhole with him on recruitment day and asking random passersby to participate and do this. Brittany and Kim, I think of you guys making a lot of fun of me and a lot of fun of Brad. And another image that comes to mind is, I think it was the Mona Lisa rapping about fluid mechanics, which to this day still blows my mind. Joe and JP, I think about traveling through Spain together with you guys. JP in particular, I think about the terrible influence that you were on my 12-year-old son, convincing him to jump off a 45-foot cliff. Mind you, I have to admit, I jumped off it too. Al, remember almost missing the bus, if I recall, right? And then Sean and Andres, I remember sitting at the hotel bar in New York being surrounded by Oklahoma fans because it turns out it was an Oklahoma bar. And all we wanted to do was watch some football. Anyway, back to my memories of my day when I was graduating. I remember, you know, I'd been in school since I was 4 years old. I was fed up, I was tired, I was exhausted. I did not want to continue in education. And I decided, let's see what I want to do. Wasn't even sure I wanted to be an engineer, right? So this is what I've typically called my limbo year, where I started exploring. The first thing that I did is one of my best friends, he had just graduated with a master's degree in entrepreneurship, and he said he wanted to give that a go. So he and I set up a company together. Well, that company, we had no right setting up that company. We were 22 years old, had no idea what we were doing, responsible for everything and anything you can possibly imagine. We convinced a bunch of people to invest in us and do this. At one point, and this is not a joke, this is a true story, at one point we were extorted by the IRA, and I had to sit down with somebody who had gone through multiple attempted convictions of murder, and I was terrified and I had no idea what was going on. And at the end of this entire thing, we had lost about €1 million worth of investment and filed for bankruptcy. It was a terrible, terrible failure. But that's when I learned I'm not an entrepreneur. My buddy Hugh filed for bankruptcy, opened his next company a week later. He's on his 7th company right now and living very, very well. I decided then, okay, let me think. I have an engineering degree, maybe I should put it to use. I moved to the UK, and I worked for a big company called Bureau Happold, 3,000 employees. Started working there. The work was interesting. I got to work on some cool projects, very, very exciting, but I felt totally and utterly underutilized. I felt like I could do so much more than what was going on. I felt that there were some very strange inefficiencies in the company that frustrated me. There were other things going on. And remember, I had been there for a month. This is a company of 3,000 people. I was so convinced that I was right that at lunchtime I sat down next to the senior partner of the entire company and shared my opinions. He asked me to come up with a plan, which I did. I shared it with him. He liked it. But I decided, well, this isn't the place for me. So that's when I decided to go and do a PhD. I moved out to California, UC San Diego. My very first quarter there, that's when I learned that the Irish education system and the American education system are very, very different in terms of the pace at which things move. I had my first midterm 3 weeks in. At the time, I didn't even know what a midterm was. In my very first mathematics exam, I scored 16%. I remember being terrified about this until I turned to my right and saw that he had scored 14%, and I turned to my left, and that person had scored 12. So all of a sudden I felt, okay, we're all in this together. It'll be all right, I don't need to freak out. But again, during my PhD, things turned around. During my second quarter and my third quarter, I felt comfortable, I knew how the system went, and I did very, very well in all of my classes. I then went on to do the first of 3 exams that you have to do during a PhD exam, the qualifying exam, and I failed it miserably. Thankfully, I was allowed to take it a second time. That went well. Things continued to do. About 6 months later, I gave my very first research presentation in front of my PhD advisor. 2.5 years later, the day I received my PhD, his wife would tell me, by the way, Diogo, Paul told me that was the worst presentation he had ever seen. Okay? But I went on, I got my PhD. I think with all of you, when you took fluid mechanics with me, I told you the story that I studied fluid mechanics. I flooded my advisor's lab 6 times. Like it is, there's a lot of good stories that are out there, but that's when I discovered I'm much better on a computer and pen and paper. I discovered what I wanted to do, got my PhD, successful, moved to Barcelona to work as a postdoc at the engineering university there. While I was in Barcelona, I became a father. Again, that's, probably one of the greatest responsibilities you have in your life. I've messed up a lot as a dad, I've done a lot of good things. Several of you have met my children. They're doing okay, despite the mess-ups that I've incurred. And today, I'm a professor and department chair, and I don't know, how you guys feel about it in terms of whether you would consider that to be a successful life or not, but from my perspective, it is. I've done well, right? But if you want to know how I'm failing as a department chair, I'm sure there are plenty of colleagues in my department who'd be happy to share their perspective on these things. What's my point? Why am I talking about this? Today is a day where we're celebrating your successes, right? Not failures. Why would I possibly talk about any of these kind of things? Well, what I'm trying to tell you is you're going to fail, right? You're going to fail. You're going to go out in the real world. Things are going to go horribly wrong. You're going to experiment. You're going to try to figure out what your pathway is. That's okay. Now's the time to do it, right? Make sure you move forward with this. Whenever I think back to my days in secondary school, right, I had a French teacher called Mrs. Egan, and she taught us this one expression that has always stuck with me, right? And it was like, if you want to land on the roof, aim for the sky. And it's very much something that I've tried to live by, and it's something that I would encourage all of you to pursue. But at the same time, I had a Latin teacher, right, Father Brennan, who at the beginning of every single class would make us pray the Serenity Prayer. I'm sure you guys all remember it, right? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The other great marker from Father Brennan's class was that he had a phrase that was written on his blackboard. Every day, custodians would come in, clean the blackboard, and he would go and write it up again. And it was the following: good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment, right? It is one of the truest statements I've ever heard, and one that I encourage all of you to remember. I remember very little of the French Mrs. Egan taught me. When I go to France, I can kind of get by. I remember virtually none of the Latin that Father Brennan taught me, but I do very clearly remember these particular things. Most of you, to my great regret, will not remember all the beautiful fluid mechanics I taught you guys. But you know what? I hope you do remember what I'm saying to you today, right? Go out into the world, embrace failure, take risks, and reap the rewards even when things go wrong. It will pay off in the long run, I promise you that. Looking around this room, I know that many of you know this. You've learned these lessons in other ways. Luke, you don't win national championships in fencing, right, by winning all the time. I'm sure you lost a lot. I'm sure you failed a lot, but you rose and became one of the very best. Alex, how many failed long snaps were there before you got to the perfect one, right? Sydney, you may be the toughest military person I can think of in this class, but remember when you ran out of the classroom when we played the Disney video? Sophia, Andrea, Annie, I was a rugby player. You guys were too, right? You know that feeling when you feel invincible, you've got the ball, and then you get hit harder than you've ever been hit in your life. You go down, and every thought in your brain is saying, stay down, this isn't going to work out, this is not a good idea. But your heart is telling you, get up and keep going. You've got to be there for your teammates. You've got to do the best that you can. Viviana, remember coming to my office? Terrified of the fact that you thought you might fail fluid mechanics. And I told you, don't worry, put in the work. You'll be fine. It'll work out. You're here today because you put in the work and you turned things around. Rachel, you came to every single office hour I had, every single one, right? And how many times did you come in going, I have no idea how to solve this problem? And by the end you did. It was great, right? But this is the kind of thing that I want to see. You've probably all got stories like this, right? But now in your future lives, and I guarantee you this, failures will come faster than they did before. And they might at times feel bigger. Don't fear them, embrace them. Write your story so that when you hit your midlife crises, you can come and talk to me and tell me about all the wonderful things that have happened. Because one thing I can tell you is true, I love it when our graduates come back, knock on my door, and even if I don't recognize you in the moment, I love to hear your stories. Okay, so congratulations to all of you for being here. I'm very, very proud of every single one of you that's here. And parents, you've all done a phenomenal, phenomenal job. I know you're proud of your kids, but I really, really want to echo that. As a father myself, I hope that in 8 years' time, when I'm sitting there, that I can be as proud of my children as you should be as proud of yours. Okay? Okay, so let's move on to the next part of the ceremony. Andrew, if you could come up.
Good afternoon. My job today is to help conduct the Order of the Engineer. So I'll give a brief overview of it before we get started. So it's my privilege on the behalf of the National Board of the Order, or the Governors of the Order of the Engineer, to preside over today's ceremony. All right, so on the slide is a little bit of information about the ceremony. The ceremony presents an opportunity for our graduates to pledge and to recall that the professional purposes of engineering involves the pursuit of a learned art in the spirit of public service. By following the acceptance of the obligation, which we'll recite in a little bit, the individual engineer reinforces similar efforts of his or her peers, realizing that in unity there is strength. So in the early 20th century, engineers in Canada had similar sentiments. They believed that there was a need to foster camaraderie amongst engineers. So in 1925, the ritual of the calling of the engineer began in Canada. The words of the Canadian ritual were written by English author Rudyard Kipling, who saw engineers as the builder of things that they were intended to benefit mankind. The Canadian ceremony includes the placing of a wrought iron ring on the small finger of an individual's working hand and repeating the oath. It is difficult to symbolize any better symbolism than that of the ring, worn for all to see, and saying, in effect, here is an engineer, dedicated to a publicly avowed obligation to a profession and to those who have served it. As part of the original ceremony as well, Kipling had wrote a poem called The Sons of Martha. So this is a little bit of engineering poetry that's not common amongst engineers, but there's some engineering poetry here. So as you read it, the reference here refers to the story of Mary and Martha. When Jesus visited, Mary was staying at the feet of Jesus, talking to him, while Martha did all the chores of the house. And when Martha got a little frustrated about this and talked to Jesus about it, Jesus said that Mary had chosen the better role, or the better way, and Martha just continued to do all the chores. Well, unfortunately, Kipling is through this kind of poem is saying that engineers are Martha. They're the children of Martha. And so if you look at the second stanza here, you can see and you can read, it is their care that the gear engages. It is their care that the switches lock. It is their care the wheels run truly. It is their care to embark and entrain, tally, support, transport, and deliver duly the sons of Mary by land and main. It goes on, and the sons of Mary smile and are blessed. And in the last line, they have cast their burden upon the Lord, and the Lord, he lays it on Mary's sons. So unfortunately, I think that engineers have this burden that we have to carry. We are the children of Martha, but we do so in a way of service, so that way all of the everybody, all the other majors can be the children of Mary instead. So with that, the ceremony kind of continued on and evolved. And then in 1966, a group of engineers in Ohio started to pursue kind of making an order of the engineer, a separate organization with distinct ceremonies. And that is where we are today. It's kind of gone through a lot of different universities, including the University of Notre Dame. All right. So the stainless steel ring symbolizes strength and unity of the profession and provides an identifying mark of an engineer. The order's purpose is to foster a feeling of pride in and dedication to that profession which binds us together. The obligation is given freely and the responsibility should be gladly accepted. All right. So the obligation is a formal statement of an engineer's responsibility to the public and to the profession. It's a creed similar to the oath that is commonly taken by medical graduates, which sets forth an ethical code. The obligation likewise contains parts of the canon of ethics that is part of many of the different engineering professional societies. The obligation is a composite of several creeds, one of which, the Engineer's Creed, is shown on the slides. It emphasizes that we, as engineers, have certain obligations. It promotes honesty and integrity and recognizes that today's engineers are dependent on those that came before them. The ring, which is a symbol of pride, prestige, and honor among the engineers in the United States, also serves as a reminder that engineers have an obligation to society. So at this point, I will ask that all of the candidates for induction into the Order of the Engineer please stand and face the audience. You'll need the small card that has the oath on it. It's also in the program for today, so if you're looking in the front inside cover. And I also ask that all current members of the Order please stand. Candidates for the Order of the Engineer is an independent movement. The purpose is to foster a feeling of pride and dedication for our profession. So as we try to say this, remember that there is power in unity. So let's try to do this together as one. All right, please raise your right hand and recite the obligation of the engineer with me. I am an engineer. In my profession, I take deep pride. To it, I owe solemn obligations. As an engineer, I pledge to practice integrity and fair dealing, tolerance and respect, and to uphold devotion to the standards and the dignity of my profession, conscious always that my skill carries with it the obligation to serve humanity by making the best use of the earth's precious wealth. As an engineer, I shall participate in none but honest enterprises. When needed, my skill and knowledge shall be given without reservation for the public good and the performance of duty and with deep fidelity to my profession. I shall give my utmost. All right, you may now open the ring envelopes. Congratulations. So as you said that oath, my hope is that on most days, on good days, that your moral compass is never challenged or questioned. However, I can attest and tell you without anxiety, and for those of you that know me, I'm a pretty anxious person, so for me to say without anxiety means something significant. You are going to encourage days where your moral compass is challenged and questioned. And I hope that the conversations that you've had with your peers and colleagues, as long as the lessons learned by the faculty and staff that you've learned underneath, will be able to allow you to do what is good and just. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Next, we'll move on and we'll have student remarks. We have two student speakers who have been, they were elected by their peers. We have one representing civil engineering and the other representing environmental engineering. Gustavo, if you could come up to give your speech, that would be wonderful.
Good afternoon and welcome family members, friends, faculty, and my fellow peers. My name is Gustavo Jimenez, and standing before you all today is truly an honor as we gather to celebrate the remarkable achievements of the CEEES class of 2024. As a first-generation graduate, I will be incorporating some Spanish into this speech to make this occasion memorable for any Hispanic families out there, especially my parents. With that, buenas tardes y bienvenidos familias, amigos, facultad y compañeros de clase. Es un honor y privilegio poder compartir este momento especial con todos ustedes para celebrar el esfuerzo y el logro que nos ha permitido llegar aquí. For about 2 weeks now, I haven't been able to stop thinking about my time at Notre Dame and what life will look like outside. It is no secret that I have been ready to graduate for about a year now. But now that the time is here, I'm not sure that I'm ready to say goodbye. I will always remember the feeling I had driving into the university for the very first time. I was so excited and eager to start this new adventure, but at the same time, I was consumed with anxiety and nervous about making good impressions and fitting in. My first year was difficult, and while I'd like to blame it on having a football player as a roommate or being assigned to Fisher Hall, I'd only be lying to myself. It was difficult for me to adjust to this place and talk to people because I didn't feel like I belonged. So I shut myself down and tried doing everything myself. This lasted about a day when I had to text Joan to ask her for help on our first year discernment homework, which was just formatting one of our memos. Slowly, I started opening to more people, meeting other civils, and looking out at you all today, it reminds me that I found everything that I was hoping for when I first came to Notre Dame. El cambio es uno de los desafíos más grandes, y para mí, los primeros años aquí fueron los más difíciles. Pero también es importante recordar que el cambio, aunque difícil, es una oportunidad para crecer y aprender. Mirando hacia el futuro, también debemos recordar que este es solo el comienzo de nuestro viaje. Como estudiante de primera generación, llevo conmigo las esperanzas y los sueños de mi familia, las aspiraciones de mi comunidad y las promesas de un futuro mejor. Ahora es nuestra responsabilidad honrar los sacrificios que se han hecho en nuestro nombre, aprovechar las oportunidades que se presentan y aprovechar al máximo la educación que tanto nos ha costado obtener. As a class, we've shared great memories and have come a long way to realize that we're never alone. It's funny to think that a lot of us were in Bill Break Perfect together, and what I remember most vividly is being intimidated by Finn answering all the questions with his deep voice while no one said anything else. This resembles how I felt about many people in my early years, but ask anyone here today and they'll tell you what a great guy he is when you get to know him. I am truly grateful for our friendship and the ones I have made with many of you here today. Our trip to New York, concrete canoe meetings, ASCE conferences, and even the time spent in classes have all been a part of shaping the way I view relationships and the importance of cherishing these memories so that we don't have to say goodbye to them. These shared experiences have brought us closer together, forging bonds that will last a lifetime. As we move forward into the next chapter of our lives, let us carry with us the lessons we've learned and the friendships we have formed, knowing that together we will support one another. As we navigate challenges and celebrate the triumphs that lie ahead, let us always remember the strength and unity we found as a class and continue to succeed together. Cuando miro hacia atrás en los años que pasamos juntos, no puedo evitar reflexionar sobre el papel fundamental que la amistad ha desempeñado en nuestras vidas. Las amistades que he cultivado aquí en la universidad han sido un faro de luz en momentos de dificultad y una fuente de alegría, llenándonos de recuerdos inolvidables que nos acompañarán el resto de nuestras vidas. Like moving day, graduation is a time of transition, a time to bid farewell to everything we have come to know and to embrace the excitement of the unknown. It is time to celebrate our achievements, honor our friendships, and express the gratitude to those who have supported us along the way. But it is also a time to look forward with optimism and confidence, knowing that the world is our oyster, as Dr. Karama likes to say. Graduation is not just an end, but a new beginning, a fresh start to pursue our passions and to make a difference in the world. So let us embrace this moment with gratitude, and when you walk out of here today, hug the people dearest to you. Lastly, I'd like to thank everyone who has helped me and been there for me throughout this journey. To all my professors, thank you for the time and effort you spend and teach us to ensure that we become the best versions of ourselves. A mis padres, hermanos y novia que nos acompañan, gracias por cada sacrificio, por cada consejo y por cada sonrisa. El poder dirigir este discurso es porque su apoyo me da la fuerza para esforzarme cada día y seguir sus pasos. Sé lo tanto que han deseado esto y lo tanto que han sacrificado, y espero que estén orgullosos. And a special friend to my friend of 22 years, Joan. See, I come from a family of 5 boys, and I had the opportunity to meet Joan the first week of classes freshman year. We bicker a lot, and but I treat her like a sister because she truly is the sister I never had, and I consider her family to this day. We've been through a lot together, and I am lucky to have found my best friend so early on. Once again, congratulations to everybody here today. May we look forward to the day we reunite and catch up with each other soon. Thank you.
Pues muchas gracias, Gustavo. And now, next, for the environmental, we will have Patrick.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. I just want to start by saying thank you, of course, to my family, my classmates, and my friends, and all my professors who have given me so much support. And yeah, I really wouldn't be here without any of it, and it means the world to me. But I just wanted to share a little bit about what I've been thinking as we've come to the end of this journey and go into the real world. So last semester, I took a sociology class to fulfill one of my last remaining university requirements. And I wasn't really sure what to expect, but it actually ended up being one of my favorite classes that I've taken here at Notre Dame. And this is mostly because of one very simple yet very powerful thing that I learned, and that's the concept of social constructionism. It wasn't exactly a new term to me, and it probably won't be a new term to you either if you've ever heard the term social construct. But the idea is that every problem that exists today is only a problem because we as a society have decided to treat it as one. So racial discrimination, homelessness, climate change, these weren't always treated as serious problems, but they are now because we've decided to. So in a sense, you can think of it as we kind of make everything up. But I promise I'm not trying to ruin anyone's day by saying that nothing matters. What I'm trying to say is that anything can matter if we want it to. Of course, things aren't constructed as problems overnight. Social construction takes a lot of time and work. And most importantly, enough people need to agree that something is actually a problem. No one can change the world all by themselves. But as engineers, I think we have a lot more power to fuel change than we think. Engineers have designed quite literally everything that exists in the built environment. Building things is what we do. But by building structures and infrastructure, we also build lives and shape systems. Look no further than American city planning in the early 20th century. Engineers built highways that completely revolutionized travel, and yet many of these same highways were explicitly designed to physically segregate cities by race. Becoming sociologists probably isn't something that any of us signed up for, but as engineers, we won't be doing our job properly if we don't develop a thorough understanding of the social impacts of our work. By choosing what to build, we choose what to change. So essentially, our job is to choose what to change and what not to. Of course, that's kind of how the whole world works, but engineers are in a unique position to translate change from the imagination to the physical world. In many cases, we already know what needs to change. Look at the climate crisis, which I think we can all agree on as one of the defining challenges of our generation. We know for a fact that in 25 years, if we don't engineer solutions to decarbonize our energy systems and adapt as much as we can to the impacts of climate change, millions of people could die and over 1 billion people could become refugees. And there are a lot of things that need to change on the policy side, of course, but we as engineers are largely responsible for addressing this crisis. We have the knowledge and the skills to implement life-saving solutions. All we need now is the courage to act. Change takes a lot of courage, and it's something that people will always struggle with because it usually seems easier to keep things the way they are. Our job is to inspire this courage by showing everyone that we are capable of enacting change, and that in many situations it will make things better. So like everyone else, we're capable of constructing and reconstructing problems, but we also have an immense power to construct solutions to these problems and make them tangible. Finally, I want to emphasize the importance of constructing parts of ourselves. For most of us, life is going to change dramatically in the next few weeks and months, and for most of us, that's going to be really hard. But just as we choose what to construct in the world around us, we also possess the agency to choose what we construct within ourselves. As we move on from Notre Dame, I think we should all try to embrace this change as much as possible. Changing as people is okay, and most of the time we're not even conscious of it. Just as the world is constantly changing, we're meant to change as well. In one way or another, the things that we choose to build on the inside will translate to what gets built on the outside. So hold on to the amazing things that we've learned and experienced in the last 4 years, but don't be afraid to evolve either. Starting the day after tomorrow, we're all going to have a unique opportunity to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, what do I want to change and what do I want to keep? What do I want to construct and what do I want to reconstruct? All we need is the courage to believe that we can. I think the rest will follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So every year we have several awards that we give to our graduating students. When I call out your name, please stand so that people can recognize you for this. We'll start with the ASCE Activity Award for participation in the service and activities of the American Society of Civil Engineers, Joan Deitch and Gustavo Jimenez Guzman. The Steiner Award, which is awarded for the top senior students based on their involvement in the department and overall performance for the College of Engineering, Jacob Ropp and Kerry Connolly. The Walter L. Schiltz Award for Undergraduate Achievement for best fulfilling their potential through hard work and dedication to obtaining the best possible education, Joan Deitch and David Kimlinger. The Leroy D. Graves Academic Improvement Award for significant development in academic performance, Catherine McManaman and Andrea Reisinger. The Sidney Kelsey Outstanding Scholar Award for excellent and creativity in academics, Margaret O'Connell and Jake Gartner. The James A. McCarthy Scholarship, awarded during the junior year for outstanding academic and professional excellence, Patrick Murray, Joan Deitch, and Gustavo Jimenez Guzman. The Joseph Bud Ahern Leadership Award to the graduating civil or environmental engineering seniors who have demonstrated the leadership qualities that Bud embodied, humility and respect for others. In Bud's word, great leaders love to build and to belong to a potent human force so significant that they can make their purpose happen. Gustavo Jimenez Guzman and Kerry Connolly. The Kenneth R. Lauer Award for Leadership, Integrity, and Service to fellow students and the community as determined by his or her classmates, Finn O'Reilly. The Dr. Raymond C. Gutschik Award for demonstrating the most promise in environmental engineering or earth sciences research as evidenced by a successful undergraduate research project, Sophia Frisbee. And the Reverend Alexander Kirsch CSC Award for high qualities of personal character, scholarship, and leadership, Nico Dinglasa and Brooke Wilkinson. Congratulations to all of our awardees. Well done and well deserved. Next, we will have a faculty speaker who was elected again by the students, our former department chair, Johannes Westerink.
Well, first of all, congratulations to the class of 2024. It's been a superb pleasure to teach you in comp methods, my totally favorite class in the world, as well as to travel with you guys to New York and see super cool infrastructure and to have gotten to know you. So it's really nice to see you guys be my colleagues now instead of students. So I want to spend a little bit of time in terms of my remarks celebrating our profession. And let's see if I can get this all up. So there's Vancouver, Canada. Absolutely gorgeous city. Pristine infrastructure. And pretty much everything that you see there is the result of the work, the vision of civil engineers, environmental engineers, and earth scientists. So it's a tribute of what our civilization is capable of. And I think that it's something that people don't really realize, that really we as a profession are the guardians of civilization, and we've been doing this stuff for a long time, but that there's incredible challenges ahead. So I think we're at a point in our human history that we must once again reinvent ourselves, and that's going to be your job. How we live on the earth, how we manage our infrastructure, our water, our energy, our food and environment, and by the way, they all come together, and that's going to be an absolute challenge. It's going to be your challenge and your opportunity also in terms of how you start your career and how you really make the world a better place. But I'd like to put this into a little bit of context, because they're certainly the pinnacle of what we're capable of. But what I'd like to do is see where we came from, where we are now, and what our challenges are. So let me get my talk up here. So it's a little bit of a history of civil engineering and environmental engineering and the earth and humans in general. So roll back 1 million years. Homo sapiens appears as a species, and we basically lived as hunter-gatherers in the forest, going from place to place, and slowly spreading around the earth. So our total population was, they say, as little as a couple of thousand, but let's call it 20,000 people. And we learned how to do a few things. We learned how to hunt really well, in fact, a little bit too well. And we learned how to use fire to cook and do lots of different things. And we progressed. Now, fast forward and go to 12,000 years ago. Now we're organizing villages. We became so good at hunting that there wasn't enough food anymore. So we turned to agriculture. Now, who sees the civil engineer in that picture 12,000 years ago? What's a critical part of agriculture? Anyone want to belt it out? The rice paddies, right? And the management of water and irrigation. So the first civil engineers were doing this stuff 12,000 years ago. So we're enablers of agriculture in a big way. Then we go forward a little bit. Oh, by the way, at this time we had about 5 million people on Earth. So, and the other thing I want to do is put into context how long ago this was. In terms of 12,000 years sounds like a lot, right? We're starting to talk in the order of biblical times. Of course, they were later, but it's about 500 generations. So that's not so long ago that we moved from hunting and gathering to agriculture. And I think that's something that's very fascinating. So then we moved forward a couple of thousand more years, and we got really good at agriculture, and we started building cities, and in fact, empires. And we learn a lot about wars and kings and et cetera and empires, but we forget about the critical infrastructure that was built. And again, water management was a critical part of that, also building cities and infrastructure. And we slowly started to have more people on the earth, and we were at about 7.5 million people total, I believe. All right, then we go forward, and this is the Pantheon in Rome. I think it's one of the most beautiful and impressive structures were about 2,100 years ago. And there's a city that has water supply with aqueducts, some of which still are operating today. We have sewage systems, we have roads, we have ports, we have harbors, all to support that massive empire. We have to support the trade, the commerce, and all the things that made the quality of life quite good. We had heated bath systems, we had central heating in houses, etc. Global population at that point was about 215 million people. So infrastructure and engineered systems helped the growth. But as we all know, the Dark Ages thing changed a lot. All that was forgotten. The capacity to do that was forgotten. And you certainly have the capacity to understand these systems and how they work. But essentially, Rome went from a city of a million, the first city in the world to exceed 1 million population, to a village of 25,000 people. You had the plague, you had disease, you didn't have running water, etc., no sewage systems. Everything that makes our society work and healthy, they no longer had. The Renaissance, people figured out how to rebuild it. There's a great book called Brunelleschi's Dome about the reinvention of engineered systems, of how to build domes. And of course, the Renaissance was a great igniter of science and engineering and led to the Age of Enlightenment. So we'll go to the Age of Enlightenment. In the 1700s, huge European exploration, but also huge development of science and understanding of engineering, et cetera. And the global population went from 750 to 750 million people. We fast forward a little bit more, and we go to the 19th century, basically the industrial age. And, you know, if you can see in the picture, not everything was great. A lot of pollution, a lot of things that we were destroying the earth with, but it certainly led to a significant population growth, 1.1 billion people. We fast forward to the age of agriculture, and we go to the late 19th, early 20th century. Essentially, industrial agriculture developed, synthetic fertilizers, and the population keeps on growing, 1.6 billion people. Now we go to the present age. We have a total of 7.9 billion people, and there's no question that the accelerated technology of our time is enabling this whole system the way we are able to live in it today. So it's engineering and science that allows our high standard of living and the existing megacities. However, this population growth has to be understood and put into context, and we are at a point in time where we have it, but is that true everywhere? So, enormous growth. So, technology and science have in fact been the drivers of human development and growth, and the pace of innovation has accelerated, as we all know. And again, I've emphasized that our Western standard of living is enabled by this and by our professions. But we're at a very interesting point in time. And I think this is a number that totally fascinates me. Of everybody, every human being that has ever lived, 7% of us are alive today. I think that, to me, that number is totally mind-boggling. And you do the math on that growth curve, and that's what you get. And so, massive number of people. And then I think we need to look a little bit further than our Western cultures. And this increase in density is everywhere, but our prosperity certainly has not been evenly distributed. And clean water, energy, and basic infrastructure and housing is not available to 3 billion people on this earth. And I think that's something that needs to drive us as well. So, waters are being polluted and are diminishing everywhere on earth. Still 3.4 million people mostly children, die every year from waterborne diseases. That's not a small number. There's desertification, and not only does it ruin people's lives, it drives wars, and so we need to be very concerned about that within the context of climate change. Mining, we need huge amounts of minerals in order to support our technological world. In fact, your cell phone has something like 80% of the elements on the periodic table in it. That has to be gotten using mining, and we often leave huge messes behind and poison the world. Getting to my business, that's the risk business and the natural hazards business, we have earthquakes destroying infrastructure. We have hurricanes and riverine floods, and that's the research area I'm involved in. And we have tsunamis, all of which are ruining the earth and destroying infrastructure, destroying lives, and destroying economies, and we certainly need to be super concerned about those. Again, it's our professions and all its subspecialties together that really allow us to manage these systems so that we can thrive and live in harmony with the earth. So just to give you a focus of what we do now, we put up buildings, tunnels, stadiums, bridges. We build ports and harbors, canals like the Panama Canal, intricate transportation systems, airports. We provide clean water for people in industry and agriculture, and allow the distribution of that water to be consistent. We provide, we manage the pollution of the earth. In fact, we can turn waste into resources. For example, the anaerobic digesters there. We can manage pollution better, both in the ground and the air. And we can take all our human waste and again, turn it into resources, and our Pope talks exactly about these things. We can manage energy systems and not only develop clean energy systems, but also carefully utilize other energy systems in the world, from offshore to mined systems, and do it pristinely. And we can guard against natural hazards and build resilient infrastructure so that we can live in this earth more peacefully and leave it in a better place for the future. So focusing on this integrated earth systems and our two-way interaction with it is really your job in the future. And so I think the focus needs to be on something called sustainability, and I'm sure that a lot of your professors have talked about this a lot, but sustainability is what we need to be thinking about. And sustainability is the ability to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This implies that we cannot harm the environment beyond its capacity to restore itself or deplete its natural resources. And I often say to myself, you know, I care more about my children than anything in the world and how they can thrive. And I am 100% sure that every family in this room feels that way. And we're willing to do anything, put ourselves into debt, et cetera, for our children so they can thrive and prosper. And I think we really need to take that view holistically in terms of the earth and think about our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and our great-great-grandchildren. And the other thing is that we can build smarter, and we can build more resilient systems. There's going to be another hurricane. I was super involved in Hurricane Katrina and other hurricanes and the rebuilding of New Orleans and other places. But stuff's going to happen. We're going to have earthquakes, we're going to have tsunamis, we're going to have volcanoes, et cetera. But we can build systems that basically allow us to be resilient, and that is the ability of a system to recover quickly and to continue to operate even during a quote-unquote natural disaster. So resilient and sustainable design actually are not only the right thing to do, but if you start working the economics of it and want a society that absolutely thrives economically, it's the smart way of doing it, because in the long run, it's much, much cheaper. So that is the Goldman Sachs building in New York during Hurricane Sandy. They were the only people that put their backup generators on the 3rd floor. And everybody else had them in the basement, and of course they became inoperable. So, let me, a little bit of a hard time reading that. So, how we will reimagine ourselves and apply technology for the good of all of mankind, all our future generations, and the Earth itself. It's the infrastructure, water, energy, food, environment nexus that are interlinked and will determine this future. So really, as you go forth in design and start thinking about how to do things, you really need to think about all components of the system. And this is my absolute favorite quote. It's Pope Francis. I was Jesuit raised, and I admire him greatly. We receive this earth, this world, as an inheritance from past generations, but also as a loan from future generations to whom we will have to return it. As stewards of God's creation, we are called to make the earth a beautiful garden for the whole human family. When we destroy our forests, ravage our soils, and pollute our seas, we betray this noble calling. And I think that is really at the heart of our profession and the point at which we need to reimagine how we do things and do them better. So first of all, or last of all, congratulations. You've got a big job ahead. Embrace it. Go at it with absolute vigor, and be a steward of this earth and turn it into keep it a beautiful garden, but for everyone in the world. So congratulations, class of 2024.
Thank you, Johannes. And now for the thing you've all been waiting for, presentation of diplomas. Students, if you can line up and we'll get things going. By the way, do not hold back. Cheer as loud as you want when your graduate's name is called. I encourage it massively.
Rachel Lois Adams. L. Ann Ackerman. Brittany Marie Alvarez. Jasmine Andrade. Grace Viola Astafi. Ethan Joseph Barhyde. Jillian Elizabeth Bowen. Ryan Joseph Brown. Ella Jane Burns. John Paul Buttress. Joseph Charles Caesar. Carrie Alicia Connealy. Joan Margaret Deich. Leah Delfos. Nico Roman Garcia Dinglasa. John William Donorama. Jennifer Aaron Driscoll. Joseph John Esslinger. Sophia Marie Frisbee. Jake Cooper Gartner. Sydney Hertzig. Gustavo Jimenez Guzman. David Ronald Kimlinger. Jacob Kostner. Doyup Kwan. Anne Catherine Lang. Kayla Jade Leedy. James Luke Linder. Joseph James Lohman. Kimberly Nana Ya Owusua Mafo. Angelique Mbazi. Kathleen Franklin McLeod. Catherine Sophia McManaman. Andres Mejia. Sean Patrick Mullen. Jack Thomas Munzel. Patrick Michael Murray. Margaret Susan O'Connell. Finn Podrick O'Reilly. Alexander David Peich. Pedro Alberto Pozas Garza. Shannon Claire Riley. Justin Peter Reiser. Andrea Grace Reisinger. Bradley Oakford Richmond. Viviana Beatriz Rivera Vasquez. Alexa Cristiano Rizica. Jacob Clark Ropp. Lucas Stephen Souter. Aranza Sabrina Sierra. Che Min Sun. Kiara Astrid Martine Thrum. Thomas Simon Walters. Brooke Madison Wilkinson.
I present to you the 2024 class of Civil and Environmental Engineering and Earth Sciences. Please, big round of applause for everybody. Thank you for all that wonderful enthusiasm. Before we part ways here, I do want to remember one thing. You guys put in the 4 years. Those people back there put in many years behind that. So all of you, please stand up and make sure you cheer even louder than they did. Again, thank you all for being here. It's been a joyous event, as it always is. I and my colleagues will be hanging around for a while, and I would love to chat with you, catch up and do this. And graduates, I'm just going to repeat one thing that I said before. Come back often. Update us with your stories. We want to hear them. We want to be part of it. And whenever you need guidance, help, information on anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm really, really excited to see where you will all end up. Congratulations one more time, and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
For him, yeah. No, he handed her the thing.
All right, let's do this. One more office error. Wait, did you get it? And with that, we are dismissed.